I'm sure you're excited. The show's going to come out in just 2 weeks.
It's crazy. I don't even really know what to think. I just got to LA yesterday. We're doing a bunch of fun stuff with the cast this week, the premiere and everything. It's very exciting. Very exciting. It's kind of crazy that it's finally happening.
That's awesome. I've seen the first 3 episodes. I like it a lot. It feels like it picks up right where the movie's left off, like in a really good way.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that you've seen them. Okay. This is the first thing that I've done where they're like, oh, I've seen the show. I'm excited. Yes, the show is super cool. It takes place, 15 years after the original movies, same universe, everything. And, you've seen it, but yeah, it's a continuation, and there's so many great little nods to the movies. There's characters that come back. It's very exciting, and it's just an honor to be a part of it, honestly.
Awesome. All right, so I have to ask you right off the bat, because you got to ask this question. It's national treasure.
Yeah.
Would you steal a Declaration of Independence?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know if I would be able to do it myself. I'm very much like Oren. I don't think I would be able to do that by myself. But if my friends needed my help, maybe I would do what's wrong in order to do what's right.
Yes, perfect quote. But I mean, I feel like it would be easier to do now since Nicolas Cage showed us how it's done. Although it's also been like 20 years, so maybe they changed the security. I don't know. Maybe it's much harder now.
And honestly, I always wonder that, like with these kind of movies, especially like this, like how much can be real and how much has to be run by like the government to see if it's like, just because that gives people an idea, that's kind of like, oh, don't tell them everything. Don't tell them how to do it.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, like all the stuff about how the Library of Congress works and all that. It's like, is that actually like based on real stuff? Like,
no, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So if you did become a treasure hunter, like your character, right? Yeah. And you guys found like crazy treasure, would you split it evenly or would you keep it all for yourself like Sean Bean would?
Oh, I would for sure split it evenly. I think, especially with the cast that we have, I mean, they're like all my best friends now. So no trouble splitting that evenly with them. They're the best.
Oh, awesome. So were you a fan of the National Treasure movies before you got cast in the show?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it was always a movie that we would watch as a family. It was growing up. You're like, oh, that's such a great movie. My dad was a big history buff, watched the History Channel all the time. Like it was like first of all, it's an incredible movie, and it still stands to this day, which is crazy. Right. You can't say that for a lot of movies that, like you watch as a kid and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. You rewatch it as an adult and you're like, huh, just not my cup of tea anymore. But National Treasure is one of those that will stand forever, I think. And I was a huge fan of it, and just such an honor to be a part of it, truly.
I totally agree. Like after I watched your screeners, I went and watched the first 2 movies again, and I was like, this really holds up. Like I hadn't seen them since like 2000s, but yeah, they really are like really fun, great like action adventure movies.
Yeah, really awesome. Very
so
good.
In the new show, National Treasure: Edge of History, you play Oren, a new character to the universe. How would you describe him, and what is it about Oren that you enjoy playing?
Love that question. Oren is, getting to create the character, I was able to put a lot of myself into him, but there's also some things that, I wouldn't probably do in my world, but Oren he's kind of a goofball. He's he always goes into things with the best of intentions, whether those are received in the way he intended, are not always correct. But he loves so hard. He loves all of his friends. He really steps up big for Jess and really tries to help her out. And he's a big cheerleader in the group, I think. Like there's a scene in episode 2 where he just went through this very traumatic experience. He can't share, but you know what I'm talking about. And he kind of is like, you know what? That really fired me up. That I'm behind you now. I'm ready to make this thing happen. And I think that really triggers Jess. She's like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's make this happen. Let's do it, because I got my friends supporting me now. Let's see if we can actually make something happen here. And I love that about him. I love that he's kind of very open to trying new things, and he's got this like really, somewhat concerning knowledge of conspiracy theories, it does eventually help the group in some ways throughout the show, and it's been very fun to play that as an actor.
And I like that the show is an ensemble about a group of friends who become treasure hunters. And like Oren gets a lot of the funny lines and gets to be the irreverent one. Do you have a favorite line or a joke that Oren gets to say?
Ooh, a favorite line. I don't know if I can. You know what's so funny is honestly, and I don't know if we can. Is this going to be edited at all? Like, are you going to be able to cut some stuff if I say something?
Sure. Yeah. Because if your answer is like in the first couple episodes, which drop on the 14th, like this will come out right after that. So
right. Yeah.
Safe in that regard.
Yeah, I'll find something. I'll say something from the first 2 episodes because then because there are some really fun ones towards the end too. Let me think because this is a good question, and he's got a lot of fun stuff that he just say. And I mean the Wibbs just created such a fun character, and I love it.
I love all the Fast and Furious jokes, by the way. Like just the constant references to Ryan O'Connor.
Yeah, he's so random, and that's what I love about him so much. Dang, there was. Oh, this is in episode 3. Dang it! Do you think I can say something from episode 3?
I think it might be okay. If it's vague.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, this is my favorite line so far.
Okay.
In episode 2, when he's doing the scene where he's kind of fired up, it was just after this crazy thing, and he gets up and he's like, you know what? We just gotta be scrappy, huh? Zig when she zags. It'll be fun. And he like gets all excited and he's like pacing. He's like, guys, what's our next move? What's our next move? And she's like, weren't you just traumatized? I'm like, fair. Yes, I was. But am I still sweating in spots I'd rather not think about? Not sure why I shared that. I think that's one of my favorite lines because he's just like, what are you saying, dude? It doesn't make any sense. But he gets so excited and he says these random things all the time, and I love it.
And as you mentioned, speaking of traumatized, you got Catherine Zeta-Jones. She plays Billy, one of the villains in the show. Yes. Without spoiling, Oren kind of before he even knows what's happening, she kind of gets her claws into him. What was it like working with Catherine Zeta-Jones?
She was such a joy. She was, it's Catherine Zeta-Jones. Like she's huge, and she comes on the set and just carries herself in such an amazing manner, and treats everybody with so much kindness and respect. And it was such a pleasure working with her, even for the short amount of time that we did get to work together. Like I learned so much, and she's the sweetest. And throughout the season, when I would see her again, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you again. We didn't get to work together much, but in the time that we did, she was wonderful. True.
And I also know Justin Barther from the movies guest stars in the show in season 1. And I feel like Riley and Oren would be like a perfect pair bantering with each other. Did you get to work with them?
Yes, we did. And actually,
awesome.
I haven't seen episode 4 yet, but he came back, and it was an amazing experience. There's such a funny part of the show where I even said that I was like, I feel like Oren would really be like almost a fan of him. And you see it in the second, in all of the episodes pretty much leading up to episode 4, where he's got Riley Poole's book, and he talks about your grandpa's the redacted FBI agent in Riley Poole's podcast. So like Oren is a fan of Riley Poole, like in the movie, in the world that we live in, Oren like listens to Riley Poole's podcast, reads his book and everything. Like he's a fan of him. And I think that was so cool to play with when he actually came onto the show and everything. We didn't get many moments together, but like when we did, it was fun. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So you obviously you're a fan of the movies. You're now part of the TV universe. It's all one giant shared universe. Yeah. What do you think is the best thing about being in the National Treasure universe now?
I mean, obviously getting to be a treasure hunter on screen. I mean, like, it really is just like a dream come true. Like as a kid, you're like, okay, you can be like in Star Wars and be a treasure hunter. Like that's like the coolest thing ever. You get to hunt for a long lost treasure. So that obviously, and also just being a part of the family that this franchise has brought together, even just working with the Wibbs, is such an honor, and them to be such down-to-earth, sweet humans and collaborative with us. And even the fact that they are open to hearing what we have to say or like what we feel about our characters is the biggest honor I could ever ask for, and just being a part of this family is everything, truly.
That's so cool. Now I've got to ask also about Nicolas Cage. He's not in season 1, but Benjamin Gates gets mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
Maybe season 2. What do you think?
I mean, of course you would love to have Nicolas Cage in it. His character is so iconic, and he plays a big role in this, even if his face isn't in it. Like, he's still Ben Gates. Like, he's still the character, you know? His presence is very known. And obviously we would love to have him. We would love to have everybody from the movies come and be a part of it, because it is still the same universe, and there's endless possibilities. So 100%.
And you come from a musical theater background, and you've also been on Broadway. I know Jake plays a singer on the show. Should there be a full-on National Treasure musical episode?
It's so funny, because that was like the biggest conversation we had throughout the entire season, because Zuri was on Broadway as well. Mm-hmm. She was in Lion King. She was young Lion King when she was like 10. And Jordan was in Lion King in Australia, and he played young Simba. So like, we have a very musical cast. Lisette is an insane dancer. Jordan's an amazing dancer. I mean, it's bound to happen that we have a musical episode. I would love that. I would love nothing more.
Oh, it's got to happen. That would be like, that would be the craziest, most iconic episode of the show.
It would be the best. I love it.
Listen, Antonio, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.